Chicago has some great things going for it. Voted the best big city 9 years in a row, one of the top food cities in the world, but it also apparently has the worst traffic in America. And if you're moving to the Chicago suburbs and the daily commute to Chicago is important, then this video is for you, because if you move to the wrong suburb, it can add a ton of time to your Chicago commute. In this video, I'm ranking Western Chicago suburbs by commute reality. I'm talking about what 30, 45, and 60 minutes actually gets you when you're deciding where to live. And I'm breaking this down by the top town areas because people want to live in great communities with things to do, high-ranking schools, parks and recreation, and of course, a history of home appreciation. But sometimes the reality is to live in nearby areas to a town that is highly desirable and has access to a metro station and highway, because homes are more affordable, amenities are identical, and school districts are similar. Now let's clarify a few items so you know how these areas were categorized. A commute is not just the train time, it's the Metra zone, access to the station, parking, train schedule, express train access, which I will explain, and of course secrets only locals know about that I'm going to be revealing. Now, because some people like the comfort of their own car, a commute might totally be feasible by highway, so I'll cover that as well. And keep in mind, traffic will vary at certain times of the day. Now, one of the main questions people ask me is, Austin, where should I live in the Chicago suburbs that has easy access to downtown Chicago without compromising on the community, schools, and things to do? So my criteria is rather simple. I broke down the top areas with train access and of course commute time that also have all those things, so let's get into it. If your number one priority is downtown access without actually living in Chicago, the Oak Park area is the closest thing in this video. So Forest Park, River Forest, even Berwyn and Elmwood Park all have train access, and you can rough it on 290, aka the Eisenhower, which bisects this area, or you can be like me and take back roads all the way downtown Chicago to avoid traffic at certain times of the day. Now, Oak Park is about 10 miles outside of Chicago, and you can literally see the Chicago skyline from certain vantage points throughout the village of Oak Park. And there are 3 different train lines that provide direct access. It's located in Metra Zone 2, so it will be slightly friendlier on your wallet. My wife and I lived here for a few years in our 20s. We loved it and fully took advantage of the $3 Green Line tickets to get everywhere, from Cubs and White Sox games, the fantastic Chicago beaches, the United Center, and filming video content to give you guys the best perspective on what it's actually like living here. So if you find value in my content, make sure to hit that like button, you know, the emoji looking thing like this, because it gives me that direct feedback that I need to keep making these videos. Anyways, on the current weekday inbound Union Pacific West schedule, Oak Park can get you into Ogilvie Station in about 23 minutes. And Oak Park also has CTA access through both the Blue Line and Green Line, which it gives it a completely different feel from most of the suburbs we're talking about today. This is basically the Chicago subway, but it's known as the L because it's elevated above ground. Those trains run every 8 to 10 minutes, and you can be downtown Chicago in under 30 minutes for about $3. That's why I put Oak Park in its own category. It's genuine access to the city without needing to pretend or say they actually live in Chicago. Oak Park is for the person who wants urban, suburban, beautiful housing stock, albeit mostly historic. Walkability is a real thing here. All of those train lines I mentioned are about a 10 to 15 minute walk at most throughout town. Kiddos walk to school, and there are also CTA bus routes throughout town. Awesome year-round events. I do need to replenish my beer sample glasses now that I have a toddler, so maybe I'll feature the Oak Park Beer Fest in a video later this year. Give me some encouragement in the comments. And this area is compact, more of a grid style setup, and it truly is urban, suburban like I mentioned. So River Forest and Forest Park are right there. The whole near west suburban pocket feels more plugged into Chicago than pretty much the rest of the places on this list, because frankly, it is. The median price for a condo here is affordable, under $300,000, and the median price for a single family detached home is in the mid 600,000s. Now make sure to watch my Oak Park specific videos for more insight. I'll link that playlist down in the description. So if you tell me your commute matters a lot and you still want a suburb, don't want to live in Chicago, Oak Park is the first place I'm forcing into that conversation. Not because it's perfect for everyone, but because it's one of the very few suburbs where the downtown Chicago access is strong enough that it changes the entire lifestyle equation. Now let's move over to the BNSF corridor just to the south, staying east of 294, because this is where a lot of people say this feels more like the suburbs with a vintage Chicago flair, and a downtown Chicago commute is still pretty quick. And the first great example of that is Grange, about 17 miles outside of Chicago, and the surrounding towns of Western Springs, Brookfield, and Riverside. Looking at the Metra zone map, Grange and Western Springs fall into Zone 3, while Brookfield and Riverside are in Zone 2, so there will be a slight difference in train fares. On the current weekday inbound BNSF schedule, Grange can range from about 25 minutes on the express runs to about the mid-40s on slower ones. And allow me to clarify, the BNSF train line has express trains that bypass certain towns so passengers can travel into the city quicker. That is why I think of Grange and the surrounding areas as a true sweet spot. You get walkable downtown, a strong suburban identity, great schools, and a commute that still feels reasonable enough for a lot of people who need a commute to Chicago on the reg. Again, when I say area, I mean Grange, Western Springs, Brookfield, and Riverside. This whole cluster will vary in housing price points, but they all have access to the BNSF train line, and the I-55 freeway is right there. Shameless plug, Western Springs just cracked the top 10 best places to raise a family in America list on Niche, which could make this area even more desirable in the years to come. Now, all these areas have PACE bus access, and parking is available at all these train stations as well. I know in Grange it's $3 a day through the Passport parking app, and they have monthly and quarterly passes as well. And if you prefer the comfort of your own car, residents have a straight shot to Chicago and Midway Airport via I-55, which is a toll-less highway here in Chicago, so you're not paying any additional fees to use something your tax dollars have already paid for. How I describe the area, this is a spot that starts to become fully suburban, but the city still feels connected enough that it can be part of your normal week instead of some special occasion. People get that traditional suburban lifestyle they were looking for while still keeping a fairly credible city connection. You're not living in the city anymore, but you're also not signing up for a commute that takes up all your free time. Then you move into the next level out west of 294, and this is where Elmhurst lives, one of America's hottest suburbs, which I talked about in this video right here. Elmhurst is a great commuter suburb and sits about 19 miles from the Chicago Loop. On the current weekday inbound UP West schedule, Elmhurst commonly lands somewhere around a 30 to 40 minute commute into Ogilvie Station, depending on the train you catch, of course. Now, Elmhurst is the last stop where the express train begins, so you can hop on, skip a ton of towns, and get into Chicago in 29 minutes, which is great because this location also offers quick access to the business district of Oak Brook just to the south and O'Hare Airport just to the north. So if you're a business person, this is a primo uno spot. Now, parking at Elmhurst train station costs $3 per day via the Passport parking app, but a lot of residents who live near downtown Elmhurst just walk it. Now, Elmhurst gives you a more classic, polished suburban package, a stronger separation from the city, a little bit more space, but still very much an urban style suburb. More of that established Western suburb identity. A highly desirable downtown with a mix of historic homes and a renaissance of new builds throughout town. This is the first place in this video where the conversation becomes less about closest possible commute and more about balancing commute with the kind of suburban feel people actually moved out here to get. But most good things come at a cost, unfortunately, with the average single family home price at nearly $900,000 and condo townhomes at about $450,000. However, the more affordable Villa Park and Lombard sit right next door and have access to all the same highways and train lines as well as area amenities, and because of that, these two areas have seen quite a few young professionals moving here over the last few years. Hey, real quick, out of the suburbs we covered so far, which area gives you the best overall lifestyle for the money? And which one do you think people overpay for just because of the name? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Next, we're getting into one of the strongest family and commute corridors in all of the western suburbs, Downers Grove, Hinsdale, and the #1 place to raise a family in America, Clarendon Hills. These towns all sit on the BNSF line, with express train access right to Union Station, which is just west of the Chicago River outside of the Chicago Loop, making it a convenient walk to the business district and West Loop areas. Hinsdale and Clarendon Hills offer an express line that lands downtown in about 35 minutes, and Downers Grove has two options for an express train at the Belmont Station and Main Street, running about 30 to 34 minutes. Now, Hinsdale and Clarendon Hills combined are only about 26,000 people and are smaller in land area, making it easier to walk to the train if you can swing the high cost for a house here, of course. Hinsdale being over $1.7 million and Clarendon Hills about $1 million on average for a single family detached house. Whereas Downers Grove, you would really need to live on the north end or downtown Downers Grove area for walkability to the train. Overall, Downers Grove is more affordable at an average sale price of about $700,000, but that's deceiving because most updated homes on the north end and downtown area will be 7 figures plus. Now, this is one of those areas where residents in nearby towns that don't have a train station will drive and park to catch a train. Going to the map, nearby areas without a train station, you'll see Burr Ridge, Willowbrook, Darien, and Woodridge, which all offer nice communities, good schools, with comparable amenities, and you'll be within a 15-minute drive to the train station. I want to point that upside of not being near the train station or a train line is that you won't hear the rumbling and train horns all day and all night. Staying on the map, all these areas are surrounded by highways, and in moderate traffic, the drive commute is about 40 to 45 minutes, which isn't too bad, but you need to factor in paying for tolls and parking, which in the Chicago Loop will run you about $300 per month just for a garage spot. Oak Brook borders to the north, which is home to quite a few businesses, malls, restaurants, and things to do. And this section has an extra angle because Clarendon Hills was just ranked the #1 best place to raise a family in America by Niche. Hinsdale is also high on that same list, coming in at number 17. If you've watched my other videos, you already know this corridor is one of the most important ones in the entire Western Suburbs conversation because of the schools and family reputation. And for more insight, watch my videos on these towns linked down in the description. Shifting back to the UP West corridor to the towns of Wheaton and Glen Ellyn, because these two are absolutely an area of conversation and are right next door to one another. Rivalry alert. Both these towns usually attract a lot of the same people looking for homes, and they are exactly where the commute starts getting a little bit longer as you're about 25 to 30 miles out from Chicago. Referencing the UP West schedule, an express train from Wheaton and Glen Ellyn will be about 40-50 minutes, and a normal train, one that doesn't skip towns, will be about 50 upwards of an hour, depending on the train, of course. So you're still under an hour. It's doable, and a lot of people commute to Chicago from this area. Both towns have bus access dropping off at the train, and parking is a few dollars a day, or there's a monthly option as well. Now, it's a bit of a drive from here to Chicago, but people again make that commute in about an hour on the tollway, and with traffic, you could be looking at 90 minutes or more. So you'll definitely need to factor in tolls and parking as well from this location. For any pilots or people watching this who work at O'Hare Airport, this drive should be mostly under 40 minutes from this location, and a lot of these areas in this video will pretty much be a straight shot upwards up to O'Hare Airport. Moving right along, Wheaton and Glen Ellyn are the suburbs where you'll probably get more house for your money, bigger yard, excellent schools, and awesome parks and recreation. It's more suburban and less of a city feel like Oak Park and LaGrange. On the real estate side of things, these two markets are very competitive and multiple offers are still a thing here. The 60189 Wheaton zip code is one of the hottest in the country, and inventory is tight with the month supply of homes available hovering just around 1 month for both towns, meaning if no more homes were ever listed for sale, the inventory would be exhausted in about 30 days or less. If you're looking for a more affordable option nearby, definitely check out Winfield, Carroll Stream, and Warrenville, which I featured in my affordable Chicago suburbs video linked right here. Warrenville has the same schools as Wheaton, awesome outdoor recreation facilities, and quick access to I-88. Also, if you want a deeper town-by-town breakdown, I've got separate videos on Wheaton and Glen Ellyn because even though they're next door to each other, they have quite a few differences, and the locals will definitely make sure to point that out. Now we have to talk about Naperville because this is my hometown. I grew up right next to the train station in the historic district, and I know for certain both these Naperville train stations are packed each and every morning with commuters not only going down to the city but other suburbs as well. Plenty of parking at both the Naperville and Route 59 train stations, and quite a few people rely on the PACE bus system. Naperville is a great example of a suburb that's further out, and people utilize the express trains heavily here. And because Naperville is the third largest city in all of Illinois, there are plenty of express runs to choose from during rush hour. Naperville to Chicago can be pretty fast. You can absolutely find trips around 40 minutes or so. And there are also plenty of trips that run longer, especially on the weekends when normal trains run and you hit every single stop along the way. Now, Naperville is about 35 miles from Chicago, so driving is absolutely doable. I've done it plenty of times, and it's quick until you hit the bottleneck at 290 between Bellwood and Oak Park. I like to say this makes Naperville a lifestyle-first suburb with commuter functionality. People choose Naperville because it's literally the total package, ranking for the top city for public schools in the country. And it's also the #1 city to buy a house, to live in, and to raise a family in the United States, according to niche.com. Multiple years in a row, by the way. Now, because of these rankings, Naperville has seen home prices appreciate pretty nicely, and the average sale price is nearly $800,000, which is up over 50% in 5 years. If you are looking for a more affordable alternative in this same area, look into Lisle, District 204 Aurora, and Woodridge right next door. There are several neighborhoods in these areas that feed into the Naperville school system. Now, in the Western Chicago suburbs, downtown Naperville is the destination, and people from all over come to enjoy the restaurants, high-end shopping, and aesthetics of the Naperville Riverwalk. Naturally, because this is where I grew up, I've made quite a few videos about Naperville, so make sure to browse that playlist after watching this video, of course, down in the description. Now, if downtown Chicago access is a top priority for you, Naperville hangs with the collar suburbs just fine because of the train. But just know, depending on the time of day, highway driving can vary drastically anywhere from 50 to 90 plus minutes, with stop and go traffic into downtown Chicago. Also note, Naperville is a city. It's big not just in population, but land size, and certain neighborhoods, your drive to the train station or the highway entrance might be 20 minutes or more. That is where people get themselves into trouble, probably because they didn't call me for their move. So if you want representation for your move from someone who is actually from the community, give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email so we can connect and put together a moving plan that's right for you. Now, if we're talking strictly commute reality, Geneva is the anchor here because Geneva is the town with the actual Metra station. And on the current weekday inbound UP West schedule, Geneva can absolutely move on the express runs. There are trains that get into Ogilvie in roughly 60 minutes, which honestly surprises a lot of people because Geneva feels much further out from the city. But here's the nuance. If you live in St. Charles or Batavia, Geneva becomes your practical train hub. Both Batavia and St. Charles literally point residents toward the Geneva station for Metra service, and it also notes PACE bus connections into downtown Geneva. So for a lot of area residents, the real commute is not just the train time, it's getting to the train first. And then Batavia has close access to the I-88 transportation corridor. So if you're somebody who might drive more often, work in the western suburbs, or just wants better highway access, Batavia would probably make the most sense. And homes here are the most affordable of the three towns, with quite a few new build opportunities throughout the area. The way I describe this area is pretty simple. Geneva is the cleanest commuter option of the three. St. Charles might be the prettiest overall lifestyle play, depending on what you actually value. And Batavia is the sneaky smart option for buyers who want the Tri-Cities feel with a little more practicality mixed in. And just like Naperville, there are more affordable angles here in this area as well. You might not be right in downtown Geneva or right by the river in St. Charles, but you can absolutely live in this general area, still enjoy the same amenities, and not have to pay absolute top of the market pricing. Now, if downtown Chicago is the top priority every single day, this is probably not your first option. But if the lifestyle is the priority, and you still want realistic city access, this whole Geneva, St. Charles, and Batavia cluster deserves serious consideration. Last but certainly not least is Lemont, Illinois. Now Lemont is the honorable mention in this whole conversation because on paper it looks sneaky good and has a lot going for it, and because it's kind of a fringe western suburb / southwest suburb. Now the current weekday inbound Heritage Corridor schedule shows Lemont getting into Union Station in roughly 47 minutes. So if you only looked at raw train time, you could convince yourself this is some hidden commuting gem. Also, quick access to 355 and I-55 here as well, which will take you about 50 minutes to drive into the city from here, and you'll hit Midway Airport on the way. All right, here's the catch. The current weekday Heritage Corridor schedule only shows 3 inbound trains and 3 outbound trains. So the commute can work in this area, but it's just not as flexible. That means Lemont is not for a person who needs a ton of train options, maybe either hybrid or they only go downtown a couple days of the week. And one reason I bring up Lemont is because real growth is happening right here. There's tons of master plan, new build communities are going up here, and the average single family home in town goes for about $650,000, but you're getting way more house for your money here than a lot of the other suburbs I mentioned. Lots of things to do in this area between excellent golf, the Forge, which I highly recommend at least checking out and exploring. The schools are good, and the downtown is super cute. Pollyanna Brewery is headquartered right in downtown as well. So to me, Lemont is changing and has some great things going for it, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next 5-10 years if this area really takes off because it has the potential and the setup. So you tell me, which suburb area has the best balance of commute and lifestyle in the western suburbs overall? And which one do you think people overpay for the most? And let me know in the comments where you're thinking about moving from, because I can't wait to see that. And if you're thinking about making a move and want help figuring out which town actually fits your budget, commute needs, and long-term goals, give me a call, shoot me a text, or send me an email. I'd love to help put together a plan that makes sense for your move. And if you haven't yet, make sure to hit subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of my future videos. But it's nice out today and I got more content to shoot. See you later.